Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? I know I did before I started this. I had tons of questions that I didn't have the answers to. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show into all the apps people, like to listen to? How do I make money off of it? Really, and all these answers were simply answered by Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use, and I cannot specify that enough. It is so easy, especially for somebody like me. I'm lazy, although I am tech savvy and I can do all this manually myself. I don't want to, so it's great. And now Anchor can match you up with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. So that means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. And, as people listen to this ad and listen to my podcast, I will get more and more money to this and, hopefully maybe be able to be self-efficient with this. So if you always want to start a podcast and make money, go to anchor.fm/start. It's anchor.fm/start to join me and a diverse community of podcasters already use Anchors. And I can't wait to hear your podcast. Welcome to the Kaha Club. Roll up. Let's take a rip. Never tell you the world is yours. Yeah, bish. Howdy and welcome back. This is Kyle High Club. This will be MMA episode number 11. And I'll primarily be discussing the previous UFC Fight Night 149 from St. Petersburg, Russia. The main event was Alistar Overeem versus Aleksei Oleinik. Great night of fights, but here in the United States, it was in the morning. Central Time started at 9 o'clock, main card at noon. So good morning / afternoon fights. Start out the weekend. And fights got started off the bang. Excuse me. Jesus. Just had breakfast. Maybe shouldn't have done this right away, but fuck it. They started just right out of the gate in Russia with the finishes and just exciting fights just to begin with. Had 4 straight finishes to begin the prelims. First fight between Magomed Mustafayev and Rafael Fizayev. Again, I'm going to butcher these guys' names again. Magomed ended up finishing Rafael with a spinning back kick in the first round with 1 minute and 26 seconds into it. So just getting it started. Got it started off real quick. And although Rafael trains at a Phuket top team in Thailand, has that Muay Thai style, Magomed just hit him with that spinning back kick, and then Rafael had a good guard on it, but his heel just went through his guard, hit him straight on the temple, knocked him down, and then just gave some ground and pound to finish. It was a good start to the night, good win for Magomedov. I believe he got a performance bonus. Yeah, he ended up getting performance bonus for this. So he got 50 G's. And after the fight, he called out Kevin Lee because supposedly, I guess they fought in the past and Magomedov lost. He actually broke his arm during the fight and lost. But this fight was at 155. Kevin Lee's moved up to 170. And I think it's a permanent change. I'm not sure, so I don't know if Magomed will get that rematch that he asked for. But nonetheless, it was good performance by him. Got an extra 50 G's in his pocket and look forward to seeing him out there again. And Rafael, this is his first professional loss. He was only 6-0 to begin with. I'm sure he'll be back in there. I don't know if he'll be back there with the UFC. I believe this was his debut. It was his debut. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see if he's back in there, and we'll see if I even remember. Next fight, which also ended up being a first round finish, was between Gadzhimurad Antigulov and Miguel Aleksei, I think. I don't know. But it was an exciting fight. Miguel ended up knocking him out 44 seconds into the first round. And yeah, it was obviously a quick fight, only 44 seconds. Essentially, Antigulov just head force brawling, charging towards Miguel, and Miguel was just real patient, just backed up, took his time, and as he was coming in, he just kept catching Gods with a fucking either left hook or left uppercut, and it seemed every time that left hand connected with precision, either right on the chin or right on the temple or right on the side of the jaw. It just seemed to have superb accuracy, and just about each time it connected and dropped him. He dropped him 3 times with uppercuts. And, as Gats just kept charging, looking for takedowns, he knew he was in trouble. He just kept getting clipped, and Miguel finished him pretty quickly there. And would have been nice to see him get a performance bonus, but there was a lot of finishes and a lot of good fights, so it is what it is. As Max Blessed Holloway would say. So good performance there by Miguel. I look forward to seeing him versus another guy further up in the rankings. This next fight was a good one between Marcin Tybura and Shamil Aberdakimov. They call him Abrek. Who won this fight again? That was a round 2 finish, but they don't tell you who on the website. Oh, that's what the arrow is. Oh, Shalim won. So Shalim ended up knocking out Marcin TKO round 2, 3:15 into the round. Marcin Tybura was ranked 10th. Shamil was ranked 13th coming in this heavyweight fight. First round I gave to Shamil. Let's see my notes here so I can remember. Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, so round 1 I thought he landed the clean, more significant strikes. Wants trap. Wants top. I'm not sure what that one note says, so I guess I'll just gloss over it. But essentially, in the second round, first round was kind of more back and forth, but I think Shamil ended up, as I said, landing the more cleaner and more significant and more effective strikes in the first. So I gave him the first round 10-9. Second round came out and TKO'd Marcin Tybura. And it was interesting finish, and if you have time, you should go back and watch it. You could just skip to the second round. It should be on ESPN Plus. It's the third fight of the prelims, and Shamil got him with a great left hook, and it looked like it connected. It definitely stunned Marcin Tybura, but it was like a delayed reaction. He kind of backed up, paused, and then his legs halfway gave out, his knees gave out, but he was still standing. The commentators, I know the commentators were Brandon Fitzgerald, Paul Felder, and Dan Hardy for the fight. I can't remember if it was Felder or Dan Hardy that said they had him out on his feet. So, he's essentially unconscious, but he was still standing, and that's what it pretty much was. Shamil, once he saw he was hurt and he kind of almost dropped, he pressured him, got him in the cage, and just threw a couple more punches and ended up getting the TKO there in the second round for the third straight finish by strikes to start the night. So, Russia was coming in hot. And then the next fight was also a good fight. This ended up being a second round finish between Alexander Yakovlev and Alex da Silva. Da Silva's 23 years old. The first round was close, but I thought da Silva won the majority of the grappling positions. So, although I officially, quote-unquote, officially scored it 9-9, just because I feel like you should only grant a guy a 10 if he decidedly wins the round. And more I'm not doing that so much. I'm trying to give him straight 10-9s, just like the judges actually do. But honestly, that first round I couldn't really tell. But I did give a little mark next to da Silva's name, saying if I had to, I probably would have given him the 10-9. But essentially, it didn't matter in this fight because come the second round and after the first, I think da Silva, he didn't look gassed, so to say, but he definitely looked like a little winded, and the bright lights, not the bright lights were getting to him, but that, the pressure of Yakovlev and just the intense grappling transitions and back and forth grappling match they had in there in the first round seemed pretty tiring. Come the second round, Alexander ended up getting a power slam and great sprawl and elbows, and then snuck in the guillotine choke, and ended up getting the finish there. 3 minutes and 10 seconds into the second round. It was a good fight. I look forward to seeing both those guys again. And that's at 155. Da Silva, I don't, what was his second pro loss. Kind of sucks that has to come to your UFC debut, but better get it now, I guess, than later on. And Yakovlev looked good. He looked solid, and I honestly look forward to seeing both those guys fight again. Then the next fight between Sultan Aliyev and Kita Nakamura. It was the first fight of the night that went to it's not even a night, but I guess it was a night in St. Petersburg, but in St. Petersburg, Russia. But this is the first fight that ended up going to decision. I scored all 3 rounds to Sultan, I believe. Sorry for that little pause there. I heard a cat meowing outside, which she might be, but she's a talker. She'll be fine. It's nice out today. So I gave all 3 rounds to Sultan. So did all 3 judges, 30-27. Sultan stunned him in the first round, held him against the fence. Second round got takedown, ground control. Third round got takedown, ground control, and good striking defense. Didn't really get hurt at all. Wasn't put in any compromising position. I think the power of Sultan just stunned Nakamura from the beginning, early, and then he was just worn down by the grappling pressure, and he couldn't strike with accuracy, efficiency, or effectiveness. Just because anytime although he had the reach and probably the better striking techniques and ability, seemed like the bigger guy, the more athletic guy. It was clear that anytime he stepped in there, Sultan would hit him with a shot, and you could see, although maybe not in his face or in his demeanor, but at least his approach to his fighting, he wasn't as aggressive as he probably should have been, or I haven't seen his past fights, but what the commentator said, he just didn't look like himself, and I think that was mainly because he got hurt there early in the first round. He got stunned pretty good, and it seemed like pretty much any time he, put himself in a risky position, he got touched, and he didn't like it, so he wasn't as aggressive as he should have been, and that's why I lost all 3 rounds, and Sultan had a good performance. Congrats to him. Now 15-3, so nice. And then the next final fight on the prelims between Movsar Evloev and Seong-Woo Choi. And I gave all 3 rounds to Movzar in this fight as well. I believe all 3 judges did. In the first round, Movzar had takedown, good grappling pressure, ground and pound, some dirty boxing in the clinch. A lot of he has like Khabib-like pressure with his grappling and his wrestling, holding guys against the fence, holding their legs and kind of just so they can't even defend themselves to get up. So it's Movzar's first fight at 145 actually. He fought at 135 outside the UFC. So he looked really good in the cage there. His cardio looked great, and I think he was the biggest favorite on this card, and rightly so. I ended up getting the first round to him 10-8. The second round, he actually lost a point for an illegal knee to a ground opponent. So I gave him 10-9, but because of -1, it'd be 9-9. Then the third round, I gave 10-9. You could give him a 10-8 there, too. And I think some of the judges did. I don't know. No. So one judge scored 29-26, which is what I had. The other 2 had 29-27. So it was a good performance by Movzar. He kind of just dominated Seong Woo Choi. Now he's 11-0, and still undefeated. And I'm sure he'll get a decent matchup his next fight. It's a good way to close the prelims, even though it's a second decision, but that's all right. Next fight we had after that was between Alan Amedovski and Krzysztof Jotko. That's in the preview. Jotko, although I never seen him fighting before, he was in the game, UFC 3, the video game. And he was fun to play with, rangy striker. But that's besides the point. He was on a losing streak and came out here and got the job done and got himself back on track. And I think he said that this was his last fight in the UFC, last fight on his contract. So he's trying to get another contract, and I think he definitely earned one with this fight, with this performance, taking out a guy in Alan Amedovski who was undefeated. Excuse me. Undefeated before this, although he was making his debut. Just being undefeated, even if it is only 8-0, that's still an accomplishment. Let's go. Good performance by Jotko. First round, he had a couple takedowns. He had a spinning back fist that wobbled him. Had good ground control. And I think from there on out, Jotko knew he definitely had the grappling advantage and kind of just took him to the ground, held him there, and just controlled the entire fight there. Second round, he had an early takedown and ground control for the entire round. So I actually gave him a 10-8 that round. Gave him winning the first round 10-9. And round 3 was more of the same. Basically got a takedown pretty early and just held him there the entire fight. He had over 9 minutes and 30 seconds of top control position, not even just controlling the grappling position, but top control. And overall, Jotko landed 118 strikes to Alan Amedovski's 8. So that was pretty intense. I think you could have gave a 10-8 the third round as well, but I didn't think he landed really any damage. He kind of just held him there. One of the judges gave them a 10-8, I believe, because one of them scored at 30-25, the other 2 scored at 30-26. So one of them had a 10-8 round, or 2 of them had a 10-8 round, and another one had 2 10-8 rounds. So dominant performance by Jotko, and definitely deserves another contract. This next fight was a good one. It's between Roxanne Modafferi and Antonia Shevchenko, who is Valentina's older sister. Valentina, the current 125 flyweight champ, her older sister. So this is between Roxanne number 8 and Shevchenko number 15. This is a good fight. It definitely didn't go the way I expected. But if you're a fighter like Roxanne or you're fighting somebody like Shevchenko, this was the way to fight her. And kind of went like all the other fights on this card. Lots of grappling pressure, pushing the striker against the cage, holding them there, and making sure they can't get the strikes they want to get off. And yeah, that's pretty much how this went. So Roxanne had good octane control first round. She had a takedown, ground and pound at the end of the first. And I think just did more damage overall, so I gave her the first round. Shevchenko had good punches landed, but it just didn't seem like enough volume. And she definitely seemed uncomfortable being pushed against the fence and on the ground. I didn't know this going in, but this was the first women's UFC fight in Russia, period, because this is only the second time they've been in Russia. Had a Russian event. They were in Moscow earlier this year, but I guess they didn't have any women on that card. So it's the first women's UFC fight. I think round 3 was close. But I ended up giving it to Roxanne just because I think she was more effective and just had the more damaging strikes. Round 2, she also had a takedown and had over 3 minutes of ground control, so I also gave her round 2. Shevchenko had good striking early in the second round, but like I said, she got taken down and then controlled for over 3 minutes of that round. So, I mean, I gave all 3 rounds to Roxanne. None of the judges did that, which I was kind of surprised, but also not, because Shevchenko is kind of a local hometown, fighter, although they train out of Thailand and they're not even from Russia. But they're from the countries around there, so they're from Kyrgyzstan, and that's, I guess, a subsidiary of Russia, essentially, if that's how you want to look at it. But two judges scored 29-28 to Roxanne, the other scored 29-28 to Shevchenko. I don't know what that judge was looking at. Shevchenko didn't do anything in the first. So, I mean, I could see I can maybe give the third round, but definitely not a second or first, because she didn't do anything. She got controlled on the ground the whole entire time. So, I mean, yeah. The next fight that was actually supposed to happen on this card between Ivan and Shitrikov and Devin Clark, the American, didn't happen. Ivan was rushed to the hospital. It was either the day before. I'm assuming it was a weight cut problem. I didn't see any report or any update on that. So I hope he's okay. It sucks for Devin Clark that he didn't go all the way to Russia, and he doesn't even get to fight. I don't even know if he gets paid, because if you don't fight, you don't get paid, I'm pretty sure. So that's a bummer. Yeah. Next fight was a heavyweight fight between Sergey Pavlovich and Marcelo Gom. Sergey looked real solid and came out and got the job done pretty quickly. Just had some power combinations and ended at the first round, TKO with punches, 1 minute and 6 seconds into the fight. And he looked real solid. His UFC debut was against Alistar Overeem, so, I mean, tough draw the cards there. But came out and got the win over Marcelo Gom, and looked solid. Look forward to see him get in the cage. As a big dude. Being at heavyweight, dudes are actually obviously going to be big, but and as a big, stocky, jack Russian dude that I could see doing some damage in the heavyweight division, especially how thin that division is. He could be up in contention after, 2 or 3 wins here. So look forward to seeing him fighting. I think he got a performance bonus as well, so he took home extra $50K in his pocket. So good for him. Good performance overall. Good bounce back after getting KO'd by the Eam. And yeah. After this, we got into getting the co-main and main event. Co-main was Islam Makhachev and Arman Tusarkaya. Definitely fucked that up. It's a 155 bout. Islam, 4-fight winning streak. Solid UFC fighter. He's been around for a while. He's a training partner of Khabib's, and Khabib keeps telling everybody that he's legit and he's the next one to watch. And he's definitely legit. But what I didn't expect, and I don't think Islam expected, Arman was legit. Although he was making his UFC debut, he was legit. And Islam thought he would definitely control the grounding exchanges and transitions, but it ended up being a lot tougher than he thought. Arman actually reversed some positions and had control some of the time, but Islam had it most of the time. Honestly, the first round I had it 9-9. It was just back and forth scrambling submissions, back and forth reversals. Guys just doing powerful transitions and reversals. So you think would most likely kind of gas him out later in the fight. And you could definitely see both fighters were getting tired as the fight went, later in the second and third rounds. But they weren't exhausted. You could tell they're still there. They still had a gas tank to fight. They weren't gassed. It's just they had probably been pushed a little further than they both expected. Maybe not Arman, because he knew he was fighting a legit guy in Islam, but Islam definitely didn't think Arman was going to have that good of a grappling skills. And I said here that I have the second round close, but I ended up giving it to Islam. Just thought he was more effective. Just had more control in that round. And Arman actually got the first takedown on Islam in his UFC career. He'd never been taken down ever, so that was the first time that happened. Arman looked legit. I think he looked like a legit UFC fighter. He's strong and his solid grappling defense. Islam didn't do, whatever he wanted. He got takedowns and good grappling pressure, but it was hard to keep him there and hard to get off, some decent ground and pound. Then the third, Islam got more takedowns and pressure, and I think he definitely won that round, hands down. I said the first round I had 9-9, so I didn't even score for anybody. Second one was close, so I guess I could see that going either way. But it was a really good fight. Even if you don't like grappling matches and just wrestling matches, I think you should watch this one over, because it was exciting. I don't know honestly, the only thing I know about grappling and the submission game is from what I watched from these fights. I never, was a wrestler in school. I played football, baseball, basketball. I wasn't a wrestler. And I haven't done jiu-jitsu, although I've been thinking about it. I have yet to do it. So literally the only thing I know from the ground game is watching these fights and hearing, very smart people that know the game, like Joe Rogan or like a Daniel Cormier or, a John Danaher or any of the guys out there that know the game. Just listen to them talk about it, and then also, just doing it in the fucking video game. I've learned so much about this sport just from the fucking video game, which is crazy. It's not as realistic, obvious, real life. There's always room for improvement, but it's a solid game, honestly, if you want to learn a sport, if you want to learn UFC, if you want to learn sanctioned legal fighting, different combos that work or different, scrambles, transitions on the ground, things like that. But yeah, good fight. Even if you don't like wrestling and grappling exchanges, I think it was an exciting fight to watch. And so did the matchmakers, because that ended up getting fight of the night. So that was great. And so we get to the main event between Alistar Overeem and Aleksei Oleinik. And yeah, this was a crazy first round fight. It only lasted one round. Early on, Oleinik pulled guard. And there was talk going into this fight. These guys had been training partners in the past, which I didn't know coming in. And Oleinik was open about that. He had a tough time taking Alistar to the ground in his training matches. He never submitted him. Anytime they trained, although that was like 4 years ago, I believe. he knew it was going to be tough to try to get Alistar to the ground where he wanted him and then hold him there, because Alistar's a big fucking dude, man. I think he probably cuts down to 265. He's jacked, he's strong. So Oleinik pulled guard like very, very early, and you could tell he knew this is a desperation fight. He knew it was going to be hard as fuck to win this. And, he did pull guard, but Alistar ended up getting back up to his feet. Oleinik kind of just kept head charging there, just charging head on, kind of like Gadzhimurad Atugulov did versus Miguel in the second fight of the prelims. He kind of just kept charging, throwing heavy body shots, heavy hooks at Alistar. It looked like he was landing pretty decently. But, after the fact, now we know, hindsight's 2020, Alistar was kind of rope-a-doping him. He was just kind of leaning softly against the cage. Like, he was kind of letting Oleinik hit him because he knew that, and he said this in the post-fight, interviews and the post-fight shows, he knew that the longer this fight went on, the more it would favor him. He said he wasn't in a rush. He knew it was 5 rounds. He just knew he just couldn't get clipped, dropped with one punch, and, kind of just let him tire himself out, and then that's when he would make his move. He said he would start, late towards the first round and, really pick up in the second. He predicted a second round finish, but he got the finish in late the first round, TKO, 4:45 in the first round. Essentially, it was the knees from the clinch that fucking won the fight. Once Oleinik kind of tired himself out, threw all his heavy shots he could to his body and to Alistar's chin. Alistar grabbed him in the clinch, threw some knees to his head. He was throwing some crazy knees from these side angles. It was just crazy seeing a dude that big, fucking, like, coming off his feet. He was throwing switching knees, like, in the clinch. Just crazy. And, you could tell those were definitely affecting him. And just the more and more he did it, the more and more Oleinik started to crumble, and eventually did. And he put him out, finished the fight. So good performance by Overeem. He said he's not even going to be calling out anyone for the belt. He wants somebody in that top 5. He really seemed determined to fight Alexander Volkov, because that was going to originally be who he was fighting this card. But he had to pull out because injury. Ended up fighting Oleinik. So it seemed like he wants that Volkov fight, and he'll probably get it. Maybe back in Russia, he was saying. And he said once he wins that 3rd fight in a row, then he's going to start calling out the belt again and see if he can get a shot at that title. And he probably deserves it. I don't think he'll move too much in the rankings. He beat a guy who was number 9, but he was number 7. And it was Oleinik is probably fresh in the rankings there at number 9. So we'll see. Probably should fight Volkov next. Pretty much everybody else above him in the heavyweight division has a fight lined up. And everybody else is pretty much a rematch. And yeah, it seemed like he wanted to fight Volkov, so let him fight Volkov, who's number 6. So, and then from there, if he wins that, he's definitely easily top 5, not top 3. And if he's not next for a title shot, he's one of the guys next. So you got to see kind of how the other fights turn out between Francis and JDS. That's a huge fight. I think that's the number 1 contender spot, even though Stipe is still technically the number 1 contender spot. It sounds like the Brock Lesnar DC fight might not be happening. It just doesn't seem like Brock has even communicated to the UFC that he's ready to come back. And Dana keeps saying Brock will call him when he's ready, which I don't understand, because I thought that Brock Lesnar entered the USADA doping, anti-doping program a couple months ago. So if he does that, then he's looking at coming back, or is he not? Because I'm pretty sure if you fight, you got to enter this program for a couple months, especially a guy like Brock who's failed tests in the past. It's probably juiced the entire time he was on WWE. It's probably in his contract. He probably has to do it. Especially with how many times they perform. You probably have to be on steroids. Otherwise, your body's not going to recover. So I don't know. I don't even know if Brock will ever pass a fucking test. So who knows if he'll ever fight. I don't care if he fights. I think he's probably a washed-up fighter. Obviously, he kicked my ass. I'm not like talking shit, saying, oh, you can't even beat me. Obviously, you can beat me, bro. You have 100 pounds plus on me. And all the skill in the world. But I don't want to see him fighting for the title. He doesn't deserve a title shot. There's so many guys in line that deserve a title shot. DC's just been sitting around doing nothing with this belt. And I know he's had some injuries, but Stipe hasn't got a fight yet, and it's only because Stipe is probably looking for that rematch, and it sounds like Data said they might give him that rematch, and I think they should. They should have done it a while ago, though. So hopefully that happens, if that rematch happens, and then the fight between JDS and Francis is definitely the number one contender spot, no matter who wins that. And then after that, there's Curtis Blades. There's a couple other guys, too. I can't remember. If Overeem gets another win, then he's right back there in the mix. After the Stipe DC, hopefully rematch happens, and then after JDS and Francis, whoever wins that, they're probably the number one spot. And then if Overeem wins again, he'd be, I guess, third in line after Stipe, and then the winner of JDS Francis, and then Overeem if he gets another win. But that's months down the road, so we'll see what happens between then and now. And that's really all I have for this episode. Kind of a quick recap, just because don't know too much background on the guys, don't know how much to talk about, what they deserve next. Really, the only person I can talk about deserving things next are the guys that are ranked. A guy like Shamil, as I said earlier, who was the third fight of the night, fought Marcin Tybura, in that heavyweight division. He was at 13, beat number 10, so now he's top 10. So, if he strings, a couple wins together, 2 or 3 wins like Overeem's just done, he might be in title contention, especially in that weak-ass division. And then Roxanne got a big win over Shevchenko's older sister. She was 8, beat number 15, so I don't know how much she'll actually move in the 125 division, but since it's such a new division, she got a win versus a top 15 opponent. If she strings, like 2 more wins together, she might possibly be in title contention. And then, same thing with Sergey, as I said about Shamil earlier. And then Islam Makhachevic definitely deserves a top 15 guy. And excited to see who Arman fights next. Not sure where Aleksei Oleinik goes from here. Being ranked number 9, losing number 7 in the first round. If he's scheduled to fight somebody else, I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but maybe he fights him next. Oh yeah, he's supposed to fight Walt Harris next, I believe. So maybe he fights Walt Harris. And see if he can get rebound from this. Either way, it was a great fucking day / afternoon / night of fights, depending on where you are in this world. And yeah, dude, I think they're gonna start putting on more Russia events and seeing more Russian fighters, and it's definitely a good market for the UFC and mixed martial arts in general. These Russian fighters are tough, man. They come to fight. First 4 fights had finishes. The main event had to finish. And yeah, they're all tough fighters, and especially with that grappling background that some of them have, that wrestling sambo background. It's just a great base for MMA. And yeah, man, they look solid, man. They look solid. And look forward to whenever they go back there, I guess. And I'll probably try to do another regular Kyle High episode, either here today or tomorrow. And then next week, we got another week of fights, of course, because there's always fights now between Jacare and Jack Hermansson. It was originally supposed to be Jacare versus Yoel Romero, but Romero pulled out because he had pneumonia. So instead, on April 27th at the BB&T Center in Sunrise, Florida, It'll be Jacare versus Jack Hermanson. And Jack Hermanson, I believe, is just newly ranked in the middleweight division and is coming off short notice, with Romero getting hurt and just trying to get in there and knock off a top guy in Jacare. Should be an exciting fight. And I didn't even know, but Greg Hardy's like co-main event. Also got Alex Cowboy Oliveira versus Mike Perry. It's a good fight. Glover Teixeira versus Ian Cutabla. That's a good fight. John Lineker versus Corey Sandhagen. Hell yeah. Ben Saunders is on the card versus Takashi Soto. Andre Arlovski. Carla Esparza. Gilbert Burns. Jim Miller. Angela Hill's fighting. Court McGee. So we got some decent fights coming up. So I'll definitely have a preview episode for this for these fights. The early prelims are on ESPN2, prelims on ESPN, main card on ESPN Plus. So yeah, really cool seeing these fights on ESPN. I hope the guys and the gals on the cards fighting on ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN Plus are getting recognition, and I hope this shit continues to grow. It's fucking exciting. And thanks for listening. Love you. Bye.